Pastor Ben Meller here from Bumpville Bible Church again, here in my garden. And I want to start today with a question. Are you a lawbreaker destined for the fiery furnace? And the reason I ask this question is because Jesus tells a parable in Matthew 13. It's called the parable of the weeds. And he says this, excuse me here. He says, He put another parable before them, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. So the servants said to him, When do you want us to go and gather them? But he said, No, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to burn, but gather the wheat into my barn. Now there's a couple questions we want to ask of this text. First off, why does he not, why would pulling up the weeds uproot the wheat or the grain? Another question is, well, what do the weeds represent? What do the good seed or the grain represent? And who is the one sowing? Okay? And Jesus actually answers all those questions later on in Matthew 13 and 36, starting in verse 36. And I'd encourage you to go there and read it. But he explains the parable for us this way. He tells us that the sower is the Son of Man, so that is Christ. He tells us the field is the world, so the entire world. He tells us the grain are the good seeds, or the sons of the kingdom, those who believe in Jesus, those who are following him, and the weeds are those who follow the devil. So Jesus basically tells us there's really only two religions in the world: those who truly follow him and everybody else. Everything else is just a different variation of a falsehood put forth by Satan. Okay? And so then he points to the fact that at the end of time, so the end, he says, and then the time of reaping is the end of the age. So at the end of time, and the reapers are the angels, they're going to come and they're going to take everybody who doesn't believe in Jesus and who aren't following him, and they're going to take them like the weeds and throw them into the fiery furnace. And those who are the grain that bear fruit, Jesus is then going to the angels are going to gather them, and they're going to shine forever in Christ's kingdom. And I think it's important too, why wait? Why not just root up the weeds right away? Well, but the answer is in the parable, right? Jesus says, so they don't uproot the wheat too. Jesus is most likely talking about the weed darnel, which looked like wheat until it started to head, all right, till it got a head of grain. And so you couldn't tell the difference. And so they go, and so once the weeds grow up, there's a point where when weeds grow up so much with the plant, when you pull the weeds, you got to be careful you don't actually uproot the plant too. And I'm here in my garden with my row of peas. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but I got right here peas and I got weeds right here. Now this isn't going to be too bad because these weeds aren't too heavy, but I actually experienced this where I was weeding my corn. See that big clump of dirt? If I had a plant right on top of it or involved in fact, I did. See? Right there you can see, I'll show you, you can see the bean plant right here, and here's the weed. And when I pulled up the weed plant to it because the roots are so intertwined. So when I weed, I have to be very careful I don't do that. And that's why Jesus said we're not going to do it. And I even got a row of corn over here on the other side because I let the weeds grow up way too much on this one particular row of corn. I had my kids weeding it. And as you can see here, there's a couple corn stalks right here in the beginning. And then if you can see down the line, you don't see anymore. And that's a big reason why. Okay, because we pulled it up. And so sometimes we have an issue of why does God allow evil people to remain in the world? Why doesn't he just take them out? Well, the answer's in the parable. God will judge them, but what? He doesn't want to uproot the righteous. Somehow, in taking them out, that will uproot us. And so Jesus waits to the perfect time till we have bare fruit, so we have matured in Christ through the sufferings and the trials that we need to go through in this life in order to bear fruit to Christ so that we might shine in this world and then ultimately shine in the next for his glory. And some of you might say, you may not like that God does things this way. And that's why Jesus says at the end of the parable, let him who has ears to hear what the Spirit has to say. Are you willing to accept the good and perfect will of God? And the other most important question you need to ask yourself, are you a wheat or are you a weed? Are you a weed destined for the fires of furnace? Or are you a head of grain, bearing much fruit, and destined to shine forever in Christ's kingdom? I'm Pastor Ben Miller from Bumpville Bible Church. Till next time, may God's grace shine upon you.